Hey everybody, ronarray here. Uber boss in this league wasn't the best farming strategy. My previous tests weren't showcasing great results too. So in this video I decided to bite the bullet again and do 100 Uber Sirus fights, since he's considered one of the best bosses for Uber farm currently. With a pretty stable looking drop pool and low entry cost, he should be good, right? As usual, in this video I will showcase a detailed breakdown of all loot received and time spent, together with my thoughts and ratings. Use the timestamps to jump around and let me know in the comments if there's a mechanic that you want me to test. Let's see if at least Uber Sirus can be profitable. So long story short, to enter the fight with Uber Sirus, you will need 5 Awakening fragments the same way as you fight other Ubers. And to fight 100 Uber Siruses, I bought 500 fragments. On average, you can get 14 fragments per 1 divine, and I paid about 36 divines for 500 entrances. I honestly consider it's very cheap compared to many other Uber bosses, so it will be much easier to get a profit out of Sirus. At least it seems so. So talking about what the boss can drop, it has a pretty significant chance of Thread of Hope, about 55% in every fight, and a significant chance of the boots, Tempest Rising, which are pretty cool for bleed belts, 35%. There's also a pretty nice chance for Oriath and flasks, about 9% per every fight, and the flask can cost up to 4 divines, which is pretty nice. Chance to drop the Saviour is very low, lower than 1%, so I wouldn't expect one, and a Reliquary Key can drop with 1.5% chance. Also, Sirus is dropping his currency. Awakener Orbs with like 15 to 20% chance and Orb of Dominance with 5% chance. So I would expect a lot of currency, and consider Awakening Orb have a pretty significant cost. I think it will help a lot with profitability. So talking about the time spent, every fight with Sirus takes about 3 minutes or maybe 2 and 45, because he will talk a lot during the fight, and you will also need to wait at the start before he will finish his talking and you will be able to just go and fight him. So I spent about 6 hours in total fighting boss and pretty much buying fragments. Buying fragments been very fast process. I think I got all the fragments in like 20 minutes, but fighting is much longer here. And currently it's probably one of the longest Uber fights that I can remember in the current league, because he talks just so much, and there's also mandatory stages. There's also a chance that Sirus will be hiding in the puddles, even if it's not happening that often if you have enough DMG. So generally I would expect about 6 hours for 100 Siruses. So let's start with the loot. He dropped 32 Tempest Rising Goliath Greaves, and it's a pretty nice boots. Most of them are not really expensive, and I've been able to sell them for like 40 Kelsos on average. However, some of them could cost a little more if you have a lot of percentage here, for example like a huge duration of ailments, and damage elements deal damage faster with a huge percentage too. So out of bad ones, I received about 1200 Kelsos and around 7 divines in total, and I also been able to sell some of them for 1 divine. For example, here 24% duration, 23% faster is 1 divine. So generally on the boots, I got about 9 divines in profit, which is a pretty good result considering that he's dropping so many boots. The next step is Thread of Hope Crimson Jewels. So he dropped about 53 Crimson Jewels, and most of them were not really good. They cost about 20 Kelsos per each, not just random ones, so I calculated each for 19 Kelsos because it will be pretty hard to sell them. And generally I got about 900 Kelsos that way and about 5 divines. However, 2 of them dropped perfect, so those are just like minus 10, and those should cost about 2 divines each. So on top of that, 2 divines more. And there's also 3 of them with 33 resistances, so they should cost about 60 Kelsos. It's not going to change our basis of the price significantly, but it's just going to add a little more profit to the last part, which could take a lot of time to sell. So generally, I would expect about 9 divines per thread of hops, mostly carried by perfect ones, which I dropped only 2. So now let's talk about the flasks. Sirus is dropping a lot of Oriath, and he dropped about 14 flasks for me. Unfortunately, a few of them been bad, so as you can see, 6 of them here are just like absolutely bad and has only 21% of good chances. It generally costs only 2 divines per each bad flask, and all of them in total is like 12 divines. But he dropped 2 perfect ones, both of them can cost up to 8 divines, so it's 16 per both. And he also dropped about 5 very good ones for 28%. Most of them just cost 4 divines. Also, there have been ones that just not good enough to be in that group, but still much better than the group to the left, and it cost about 3.5. So in general, all the flasks are bringing me about 51.5 divine, which is a very good number in my opinion, and I also feel like flasks are very easy to sell. So the next step is currency itself. He dropped about 23 Awakener's Orb. Each of them cost about 3.5 divines, which is a very nice price. And in general, I made about 80 divines just with Awakener Orbs right here. The next step is pretty much Orb of Dominance. He dropped about 8 Orb of Dominance, which is kinda expected too, and I received about 20 divines based on those Orb of Dominance. The last part is Reliquary Keys. That's funny, but he dropped 2 Reliquary Keys, and I think it's a very lucky result. Both of them cost about 2 divines, and together they cost about 4. So in general, the whole currency bring me about 104 divines, which is a very good result in my opinion. And the Saviour, with 1% chance, well, never dropped, so I haven't seen a single one in my set of 100 runs. You probably will need at least 150 or even 200 to pretty much drop one on average. It's definitely not the best strategy to farm Saviors. And the loot summary is leading us to a pretty cool results. So we received about 9 divines per all the boots that dropped. We also received about 9 divines from Thread of Hope, which is pretty cool. And from flasks, we received 51 divine, which is absolutely amazing. But the main part comes from the currency. We received about 104 divines in currency, which feels very good. So summarizing all that, in 6 hours I received about 173 divines. So we will also need to take into account the cost, 36 divines, and the pure profit is 137 divines per 6 hours. In my opinion, that's just an absolutely amazing result. It leads us to about 21, maybe 22 divine per hour, depending on how fast you can run it. The fight itself feels pretty annoying to be honest, but 20 plus divine per hour, in my opinion, is a very good result. I can't recommend to run it back to back because I think it will be very hard to just sell everything that he drops, but just running it occasionally here and there, maybe once in a few days, could be a very decent farming strategy, depending on what you currently expect and how fast you're killing the boss. So progressing further, in my opinion, Sirus is much closer to great than to bait, because right now, it can provide a pretty significant amount of divines. However, I can't give it a maximum rating, because maximum rating will require not just a very profitable farm, but also a pleasant one. I would say Sirus is very annoying right now. It's very stable for drop, and there's almost no gamble. You will be able to receive a pretty significant profit. But since the fight is so annoying and so long, I would give it about 8 out of 10 points on the greater bait scale. And that's pretty much what we currently see. So that's been my greater bait video about Sirus Farm. It's been honestly surprising, but the boss is very decent. And I've been surprised how much profit he's been able to provide. and how stable that profit is, mostly because it's coming from the currency that he's dropping. So thank you very much for watching, feel free to try out the boss if you want, and see you next time. Ronarray out.